Morning, everybody. Let's go to the Chita. So today we're holding in Pasha Azinu. Today is Wednesday. We're holding the fourth reading of Pasha Azinu, which is on chapter 32, verse number 19. Vayar Hashem vayinotz. And God saw this and he was disgusted. Mikas Bonov. He was disgusted because of the sons and daughters. He was angered by his sons and his daughters. He said, he said, I will hide my face from them. I'll see what will be their end. For they are a generation that transforms my goodwill into anger. There are children who act uneducated. She says, what is their end? What will ultimately happen to them? What does that mean? They transform my goodwill into anger. The upbringing that I gave them is not visible in them, for I taught them the proper path, but they strayed from it. Asher's umin is he has raised Hadassah that's nurtured. In Old French, another explanation, umin denotes emuna. That's where the word emuna comes from. Umin. As the Unclish translate, that's a concept of faith. And at Sinai, they said, we'll do and we'll learn. Yet within a short time, they broke their promise and they made a golden calf. So their emunah was very weak. They made me jealous with a non-God. They have angered me in their vanities. So I will also make them jealous of their captors. I'm making them a subject to a non-people. This thing stays so true until today. I will anger them in with a debased nation. Now she says, I'll kindle my anger with something that's not God. With a nation that has no repute. As it says, behold, the land of Chaldeans, this is a nation that has nothing. And about Esav it says, you are greatly despised. This refers to the atheist. It's similar, the debased novel says in his heart, there's no God. So you have those entities that basically are debased entities. Because my fire, my wrath kindles a fire that will blaze. And it consumes the land and its produce. And it'll set fire onto the temple cities, seemingly situated safely on the mountains. Now she says, Kadcha ba'ara burned, Batikad behem ad yisay, that they blaze until the foundation. Batechel eretz yivula, what does it mean? Atzchem v'yivula, the land and its produce. Batelait, and the Eibush set fire to Yerushalayim, which is founded on the mountains. As it says, Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, Harim Savlav, that Yerushalayim is surrounded by mountains. Verse 23, Esfa elei rois, I will heap evil upon them. Chatzia chalabem, I will use up all my figurative arrows on them. Now she says, what does it mean that I will have one evil follow another, the next? Being related to the word sofu, add sofu to the year by year. To the at sefer is punishment for unintentional sins. At sefer your sent offerings to your feast offerings. Another explanation, asafer, means I'll expend, as is penti sefer. Chatzia chalabem, I'll use my arrows on them. Now she says, I will finish off all my arrows against them. This curse in context is in the context of a punishment is a blessing. My arrows be used up, but Israel will come will not come to an end. So maybe my arrows will come to an end, but the Jewish nation will never come to an end. They will grow hairy for hunger, and demons will attack them. The Ketef Merari, and the destruction caused by the demon Merari will befall them. Shem behemoth ashala behem, and I'll set the teeth of cattle against them. In Chamas zechli offer, along with the venom of serpents that crawl on the dust. Now she says that the uncle is translating nefiche chafan, beloaded from starvation, but I can't find a decisive evidence for this. I've heard in the name of Moshe Darshan of Toulouse that it said the meaning is hairy from hunger, and a emaciated person sprouts hair, extra hair on his body. Maazeh Rashi is hairy. In the Aramaic term, hair is mazaya. Mahapech Mazaya was groomed his hair. Chumi Reshef means, Rashi says this means demons that attacked him. Reshev, similarly, B'nai Reshev, fly high, which refers to demons. Ketev Merari means a destructive demons called Merari. Ketev means annihilation. As it says, he cuts for shell, I'll condemn you to the grave. Shem Behemoth. Indeed, it happened at some point that the even sheep started to bite people, and it caused death by the people that it bit. The venom of those that crawl on the ground, it means the venom of serpents. While the dread of their enemies that they feel in their hearts will kill them. A young man, the young girl by nursing baby, and the old. I'm sorry. I said the wrong one. The venom that those who call the dust means venom of the serpents that move along the dust on their bellies. Just as the water runs along the rounds, the chila, zeichle, is used referred to water running along the ground, as well as any items that move about sliding along the ground like a snake. Verse 25, outside this city is a sword of their enemies will destroy them. While dread of their enemies that they feel in their hearts. The young man and the young girl, the nursing baby and the old. Now she says, meaning the sword of the enemy troops will bereave them outside the city. And the dread from the chambers when he flees and escapes from the sword. The chambers of his heart pound with fear, and he gradually dies from it. Another expression, inside the house there will fear an epidemic. As it says, for the death has penetrated our windows. And so Uncle is translated, that's what Uncle is translated, Another explanation, account what happened, account of what they did in the streets. As it says, you set up many altars to shameful deities. And there are streets in Jerusalem. The streets of Jerusalem, account of what they did in the innermost chambers. As it says, have you seen what the elders of the house of Israel do in the dark? Each in his concealed chambers. Verse 26, I would have said, I will abandon them. As completely as I've commanded them to abandon the corners of their field. Ashbisa me'ener zichram, I will erase their memory from humanity. Rashi says, I said in my heart, I will cast them away. One can explain a fafeim as to make it as peah. That's what you read over here. Peah is the corner of the land. I'll cast them off from me as the ownerless, as the corner of the land. Quite similar in Ezra, you gave them kingdoms and nations and apportioned them peah to free to take. Menachem and Surah also classifies this in this way. Some interpret his uncle's translation. My anger will assail them. But this is incorrect. If so, it should have written afafeim, with the one aleph as the first person prefix, and the other aleph as the root letter as arecha. I will grid you. So therefore, Rashi, Uncle's translation is based on the Bryce of Sifri that divides this word into 3 words. Amarti af ehem. I said in my anger, I will render them as non-existence, so that those who will see them will say about them, ayehem. Those 2 different words. Verse 27, Lulei kas oyev ogur. Were not the anger of the enemy is spent up against them. And therefore I cannot annihilate them, lest their adversaries ascribe to the victory to their own foreign deity. And the least they say, the power of our own hand is supreme. Hashem Paul Kozais, and not that God has done it. Now she says, were not the fact that the enemy's anger is spent up against them in order to destroy them, and if they were to overcome them and destroy them, they would take the credit for themselves and their gods, and not the credit to God, to me. This is what's meant by Penyan Nakir Tzidmeimer. They would misinterpret the matter, ascribing my power to foreign forces that does not deserve this praise. And Yemri Yadenu Rama, the power of our hand is supreme, for that nation is bewildered and they possess no understanding. Verse 28, Ki goy avad eitzas hema, for these enemies are bewildered nations. They have possessed no understanding. Now she says, for if they were wise, they would understand this. Namely, how could one person pursue 1,000? And that completes the Chumash for today. You now go to the Tanya of the day. Continue this deep thought of the Alter Rebbe in the 20th letter that he wrote, one of the deepest concepts of Chassidus. We'll continue, and again, there's a lot of Kabbalistic concepts here. You should just listen to it and absorb your mind. According to what we just went through, and we explain, we'll understand terms in the Sfitters, the corresponding letters of the divine name, by mitzvahs are in Malchus, which is the latter hey of the 4 letters of God's name. We learned that also many times. Yud Kei Vav Kei, the last hey, is Sfiras HaMalchus. But Torah is in Zeir Ab. Torah is in the first, is in the Midas, in the first 4, the 6 attributes of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. Vav Shel Shem Havaya. That's Vav in the name of the name of God. The letter Vav. Yud Kei Vav. Gam Shalamayla Baracham. Even though in Kabbalah, though in a higher plane mitzvahs and Torah are found in the level of Keser, we know that thus like the mitzvahs is found in Midas and in Malchus, so too Torah mitzvahs are found even in a higher place in Kabbalah. They're found in Keser, in Arachampin. The mitzvahs are in Galgalt, in the skull, and encompasses Moichin, or more specifically the whiteness, the level of Chesed of Galgalt to the Chesed of Arachampin, which is the Chesed of Keser. This is the words of Zohar here. The Shari, meaning the path that which that is in the parting of the hairs. The Mispal Giliyutag Urchen, the Raishis of Zeir Ampin, which divided into 613 paths. The fusion of the Torah into Zeir Ampin to Midas. Thus, mitzvahs are an encompassing level of Galgalta that transcends the level of Meichan, the level of intellect. So where you have the concept of the root of Torah mitzvahs, and then you have the way they ultimately come down into Svidus, into the manifestations of Atzilus. And the root of Teda, which merely issues from the supernal Chachma, though it's ultimately derived from the root that is lofty in the supernal Chachma. It's called Meiches Tima, concealed Meichen. The Arich Ampim in Kesen, Arich Ampim. Behind our Chachma, the Taina Mitzvahs, which is the underlying reason of the reason of the commandments. So the concealed Chachma of Arich Ampim, that utterly transcends comprehension, contains the wisdom underlying the reason of the commandments. These reasons will first be revealed with the revelation of the concealed Meichen, which that's going to happen when Mashiach comes. And so far as the Torah mitzvah are rooted in Keser, then the mitzvahs are that are higher plane than Torah. Torah is rooted in concealed Chachma, the level of Meichen and Keser, while mitzvahs is rooted in Galgalta, which is the higher than Chachma. So Galgalta is the in the simple term, it's the skull. That chachma that the brain is in, the chachma is in the skull. So mitzvahs come from even a higher place. That's why it says Torah comes from chachma and mitzvahs come from ratzon. That's what we say. That's the ratzon of the Eibush. Like the will of God is a mitzvah. So on a certain level, mitzvahs have come from a higher place than Torah itself. Even though Torah explains the mitzvah, that's what maybe Torah explains the mitzvah in many aspects. While mitzvahs are rooted in the Galgalta encompassing level of Keser that transcends Meichen. Why is it then that in the standing within the Svidus, within the corresponding letters of the four names of God, Torah is Yud Kei Vav, and mitzvahs is Hey. But mitzvahs are situated in Malchus, in the corresponding final letter Hey, while Torah is Zeir Ampin, and is in the corresponding letter Vav of the name of God. This question is which the Alter Rebbe will now answer. However, it's like an inverted seal. The stamp of an engraved seal leaves an impression, which is exact opposite of itself. That's the way a seal is done. And in those days, you used to have a seal, the ring, a signet ring. So it became it left right to the stamp engraved seal, which impression exact opposite of itself. Right becomes left, and left becomes right. Whatever produces from an indent, and whatever was indented protrudes. So too, the protruding or level of mitzvahs in Keser descends by means of a shtalsus within the Svidus in an indent or lower manner, while the indented or the lower level of Torah descends from the Svidus in a protruding or loftier manner. Or as the other expression goes, that the beginning, what is higher, is usually wedged lower. What is beginning is wedged in the culmination. So the beginning or superior level of Keser, in which mitzvahs are rooted, descends in wedged at the culmination and the lowest level of Svidus HaMalchus. And that's why the most important thing is action. Because why? Because the most important thing is action, because within action you have the highest concept. That's what Chassidus always tells you, that most mitzvahs, most mitzvahs is action, because that's the most important thing. Within this action, you have the most loftiest levels of where it comes from. Which in simple manner we explained is the infinite light of God, which creates this mitzvah. So the Eibush says, by doing this physical mitzvah, taking your physical hand and giving tzedakah, putting on tefillin, or whatever it is, you have the Ein Sof in the physical mitzvah that I did. Well, this is not through a chain event. Because that would happen, then the ilah, the cause and effect, the effect would be part of the cause. And if it's such a high cause, then the effect would be a different kind of effect. It would transform the effect, and the effect would be bottled. So therefore, it's not a cause and effect. It's a total concept of connection then therefore the entity is not nullified, because it comes down in an encompassing way. And therefore, it's not affected, the entity, the Gashmi, is not affected by the light of God that comes into it. Such a manner of creation cannot possibly fulfill the divine intent of creation. But in so much the yesh should be in a self-perception, an entity distinct from its source, not an ilah v'yada, cause and effect. Imagine if we had cause and effect. We would do everything right. But we don't feel the cause and effect. We do a mitzvah, we don't see the godliness that comes down. Truth if we saw the godliness this time, we'd be bottled. The Eibush doesn't want you to be bottled. He wants you to stay in your existence. That's what the sons of Aaron wanted. They wanted to be bottled. They wanted to nullify themselves and totally be enveloped into the cause. The Eibush still want to know. You should do Torah mitzvahs, and you should be not. You should still stay who you are, and you should continue to exist and feel your own existence. Instead of blessed emanated can be a king. It's all this that the Eibush can be king over all such self-styled separate beings. And what is a king? The concept of a melech is the concept of a tzivoy, of a command. And we should follow his commanded that he commanded us. It's only thereby that God desires to reign over created beings to be fulfilled. For as explained above, his sovereignty cannot can find expression only on creatures that consider themselves to be a separate entity from him, but who nevertheless nullified their will to his through their actual performance of mitzvahs. And it's brought down also final act, those are mitzvahs that are performed by a physical object. The final act was presented in the beginning, tchila, in thought. The level of thought that transcends even the first divine thought, Reishis Chachma. Within this sublime level of Arachat B'Marotzen, of the crown of Keser, a divine intent and desire, the fulfillment of those mitzvahs which involves physicality. And therefore it's brought down in the Gemara Yishalmi. As our sages asked in the Jerusalem Talmud, Rav Shimon Shemafsik L'Lulav, is then Rav Shimon not of the opinion that one interrupts Torah study to fulfill the mitzvah of Lulav? Meaning, even though Torah study refers to a mitzvah, the time of performance has arrived. Sages asked this question in response to Rav Shimon's earlier statement that he and his colleagues would not interrupt their study, even for the saying of Shema. Their assumption was that whatever would be true of a mitzvah of Lulav would also be true regarding the recitation of Shema. Jerusalem Talmud then goes on to differentiate between the Shema and other commandments with regard to the interruption of one's Torah study. Explain that both the Shema and Torah study involve learning, but a Lulav involves a physical Lulav. So you say, yeah, you don't. So Rav Shimon holds that you don't say that there were sages who didn't say the Shema. Why? Because they were learning Torah. The Shema is a chapter in Torah, and Torah is, so why you need to say Shema? Just learn more Torah. So the Jews in town goes on to the right. So the Jews in town that goes on to differentiate the Shema and other commandments with regard to interrupt one study. Explain that both Shema right. Surely, however, Rav Shimon would interrupt his Torah study performance of a practical commandment in their proper time. So even Rav Shimon, who held you didn't have to say the Shema, you could continue to learn Torah, but not when it came to do Lulav and Esrei. He would stop to learn to do the mitzvah Lulav and Esrei. Assertion by the Rebbe, and even Torah study itself, proposes the prior performance of mitzvahs for their beginning, and on them depends its very existence, as a forthcoming analogy on the relationship between the afterbirth, the afterbirth of the child. So ultimately, self-understood, without learning, you're not going to know what to do. But nevertheless, yet when it comes, the Gemara holds that when it came to doing mitzvah lulav and esig, Rav Shimon would also hold you stop learning. The Gemara says, and the Gemara also says, receipts to say, quotes Rabbi Yochanan, whoever learns with the intention not to practice, it's better for him as his afterbirth turned over. It's a very interesting expression. Person learns not to do, just likes the learning, but he's not going to actually change, then the Gemara says that it's better that his afterbirth should have fell on his face, and he did not have been born. Why does the Talmud relate to the afterbirth instead of implying simply saying it's better for him not been born? The answer is kashalya for the afterbirth. Neitza tchila behatipa was formed first by the seminal drop. And this afterbirth sac was formed for the seminal drop, and until the 40th day, when the embryo began to take forward, it alone was the essential substance of the embryo. Likewise, the mitzvah is a lavush, but the commandments are the essence and the root of the Torah. Even though that the mitzvah is corporal and the Torah is wisdom, hence ethereal. The Rebbe writes, this does not raise a problem as the consequence of the standing of Torah relative to mitzvahs, for the reason explained above, use the analogy of the invert seal. Except that this lofty standing of mitzvahs is on an external level, makiv, while the Torah exists on an internal level. That's the difference. We learned chassidus between Torah and mitzvahs. Torah is a lechem, mayim. Torah is compared to lechem, mayim, which is an internal concept, and mitzvahs are compared to an external concept. And in a way, Torah comes down in a much deeper way, and in a way, mitzvahs come down in a deeper way, because mitzvahs are a makiv, a lavush, and therefore it can handle even abstract situations. And as I'll explain, as I will explain further, thus should a person study Torah and not intend to perform mitzvahs, he lacks the very root and the foundation of Torah. But the whole purpose of Torah that it would come into the world. And that's the whole purpose. HaKadosh Baruch Hu but the Eibishter wanted a place in this world, and he created the Torah and mitzvahs so that it would actually come out into this world. And it would thus have been better for him that his afterbirth, so to say, his afterbirth is essence, just like the child, his essence is his afterbirth. He started off that way, and that's the meaning of the Gemara. His afterbirth should have not been born. The machshava should have never came into reality, because he himself is not taking his machshava, his learning, and bringing it into a reality. And that completes the Tanya of today. Today, the Tillim, today is the 9th day of the month, the Tillim of the day, chapter 49 to chapter 54. You do those 6 chapters, you do the Chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes today on the 9th day of Tishrei, on Erev Yom Kippur, which is today, the Avodah is remorse of the past. On Yom Kippur is to resolve for the future. So we know that Erev Yom Kippur is like Yom Kippur. We do the Avodah in a different way. Actually, we do it with eating. You're supposed to eat more today. And the Avodah of today is about the past. Tomorrow, Tamir Shemai Maitiv, we start a whole new reality. And the Avodah is about the future. I want to wish you all a Gemach Simchat Tova, a Shana Tova, Mesukah, wherever you are. They should give us all in Klal Yisrael a complete year of happiness and joy and simcha, parnasa, and all good things in life. And I want to ask forgiveness if I heard anybody in the past year, said the wrong thing, said it the wrong way, whatever it might be, didn't say it, said too much, whatever the reason might, whatever wasn't there when I should have been there. Able should forgive us. We forgive each other, and then the able should start itself forgives us, and we should all only have a wonderful, beautiful year. Hope you continue to learn Chitas tomorrow, wherever you are, and Amir Hashem, we'll meet each other on Friday morning, 8:00. We'll continue to learn the Chitas of the day. Have a wonderful. It was great learning. May we
Amen.
continue to learn from